All right, we are live. Welcome in, everybody. Not our normal day here. This is to be our new normal day, I think. Wednesday morning. Welcome in, October 2nd. Officially Uptober. A lot of people looking for upside this Q4. This is just the start of it, so welcome in. I know you guys have been watching Priyamo's live streams of all the crypto analysis. This one over the past weekend with Logan Bauer, special guest. So if you're excited for October like we are, welcome in. But this is the gentleman's code, so you know we're going to talk about current events. We're going to talk about all things around the world. We're going to talk about all different stuff. So this is what we do. If you have not seen what we're doing, if you're not in the Taylor's Code, I'm just going to plug that super quick while we get started because that's the most important thing. If you're not in there, you get to see what me and Priyamo are working on the day to day, and you want to actually DM us and talk to us and conversate about what we do on the day to day. It's super important to get inside the Taylor's Code, meet some of the people that we work with, meet us specifically, get some free juice, get some free knowledge inside of the community, and just see the stuff we work on. It's important to have a mentor and to have someone you could bounce ideas off of. That's why me and Priyamo wanted to get this community bigger and bigger so that more people could have space to talk and have space to communicate. And I think we've done a good job of it so far, but there's always room to improve. So the more people, obviously, the better. So if you're a professional in your own niche of things, join it up. You could give people ideas. You could do whatever you want in there. So that's all I had to say to start. But welcome in Gentleman's Code, episode 8 today. I can't believe it's already been 2 months of the Gentleman's Code. Isn't that crazy? Welcome in, Pri.
We're fucking cruising. What's going on, Bobby? And I don't know if it was you who told me about the statistic, but was it you who said that most podcasts, like 93%, 95% of podcasts don't make it past episode? Do you remember what it
I
was?
think it's
Three?
a 13 or something.
Yeah,
13.
30.
So we're
Five
almost
more.
there. We're almost top 1%.
Watch episode 12. Something's gonna happen. Bobby's house is gonna explode, or we get into a beef for fallout, and the show's over. We hit the final stage. But yeah, I mean it's incredible that we're already on episode 8. We got a couple of different series going. I know you got your podcast that you're doing on Sundays consistently, right?
Sunday conversation. Yep.
Yeah, Sunday conversation. Yeah, we're cruising. And just to make a point quickly about the people inside the Taylor's Code, yeah, the just so you guys have an understanding of what it is that we're building in there, it's essentially a network and a university for people to, well, university naturally to learn how to make money, right? So Bobby is a specialist in e-commerce and making money building stores, selling products, doing e-commerce. And then for myself, leadership, sales training, business development, crypto investing. Bobby does crypto as well. So giving people an opportunity to make money and then the network aspect of it to be able to actually connect with high level individuals, whether they're mentors or not, and actually have connections and avenues to actually get things done, right? So the larger network that you have, the more access to information, the more access to other people that you have, the better that you're going to be able to grow your own network and your own business because you're going to have people that can help you with things, right? So it's a fantastic avenue for people who own businesses to find talent to grow their business. It's a fantastic avenue for people who don't have businesses that want to grow one to learn from people who are doing it successful, making money, and actually implement those things in their own life, whether they're in the US, whether they're in India, the UK, we got people in Yemen, we got people all over the world. So it's a fantastic organization. And just for you guys this week, since they've been such fantastic viewers, we're gonna do a no cost week for this next week. Get you some get some new enrollments, get some new people into the university just to continue to stir up the pot, grow, and see who can get inside the organization. But outside of that, I mean, do you have any other last points you want to hit upon that?
Yeah, and I think you touched on it super quick of just the scope of the network, how we have people from all over the world. And I touched on this in our close group chat of guys that are in the community, is that we need to start relying on these guys that are international to start bringing in more heads and people from around the world, because me and you, as much as connected we think we are, these guys are international. They're over in other countries. They're doing things that we don't even know what they do on the day to day, and vice versa. They probably rely on us for those U.S. connections. But for the people watching that aren't in the U.S., that are in the Taylor's Code, it's like you guys have a special role inside the community. You could be like an ambassador to a whole country almost, and that's something I was thinking of. It's like you could be an ambassador for. I know we have Bhuvnesh out in Bangladesh, and Ollie's in the UK, and other guys that are all around the country or around the world. So if you want to take on that role as being an ambassador and getting people involved, it's you have no better option than to start right now.
Yeah, and Bhuvnesh, you got what? billion people in India or wherever the hell he. Boom, Nash, start flooding the gates. Get. Even if you get a million of them, right? 1%. That'll do just fine. That'll do just fine. 1% Bhuvanesh is all we're asking for. You can do 1%, right? So I know Bhuvanesh is in the chat, so he's probably gonna have 32 enrollments today. But last thing I'll mention before I got fantastic place to go. But last thing is like the stream, comment on the stream, subscribe if you're new here, because by liking, by subscribing, by engaging with the stream, that's how we're going to continue to get this network out to new people. And for those of you inside of the Taylor's Code, that naturally benefits you as well, because the more people that we get out to, the more fantastic that we become as an organization, the better talent, the better people that we're going to attract. So the better people that we have in the organization, guess what? The better network you're going to have. So like the stream, comment, subscribe, do what you got to do. Let's get into it. So, did you watch? Did you watch I'm gonna start calling him Vancino, Big Dog. This, you see the debate?
That was two men in two different leagues, obviously.
For sure. One, Big Dog. The other guy, don't know what he was.
And
But
so I'll just start off with this because we talked about the last debate with Trump and Kamala and how much of kind of a shit show that one was. But I think that one goes to show you more of the dysfunctionality of leadership that Trump has. And but when you look at his selection of JD Vance, I think this is why he picked him. This is 100% why he picked him, because Trump knows he's more of the radical speaker. He's more of he's going to say crazy things. He's going to have the media down his throat all day, every day. And people were kind of confused at the Vance pick. And I was too, to be honest. I was like, I don't see it. I don't really know who this guy is. I don't know his policies that much. But then he comes out last night. He's buttoned up. He's ex-military, first of all. That's huge. He knows his place in that. And he's a great speaker, delivered his points, and even chirped back at the moderators too, which I thought was good. And yeah, I thought he delivered every point exactly how he would. He was very civil. He didn't attack Walls, whatever his name is. But yeah, I thought he kind of took what Trump did and he kind of flipped the script. Everything that people did not like about Trump in his debate, Vance did literally the complete opposite. He just delivered the points. He did not go at Walls. They actually agreed on a lot of things. He was like converting Walls to a Republican at one point. I felt like he was just like giving him all the sauce, and he's like, yeah, I agree with him. I agree with Vance. So I thought it was a great performance by him, and it goes to show why Trump actually picked him.
yeah, I absolutely fantastic pick as well. I agree. The way that you could just tell he was incredibly competent, incredibly articulate, and he was not emotional, which you said is a fantastic contrast to Trump, is
Yeah.
that he's not emotional. Now, and I was thinking about this last night. I go, okay, so I see how Vance performed. I see how he speaks, how he carries himself. And then I look at what Trump does and I say, okay, Vance, what's it called? Um, Alpha and Omega, right? Like he's a great contrast to Trump. But Trump, you need him in the way that he speaks and his type of personality to be able to get real change in that environment and that government. But Vance is the guy that gets the rest of the people on board that aren't so happy with Trump's personality, let's say. He's going to get those people on board. And I think he did that last night. He was fantastic. And so I watched the entire debate top to bottom because I said, all right, we're going to be prepared for this whenever we come on this morning. And I want to know what the hell actually went on. And so I took some notes and just the first initial thoughts whenever I was watching this. Immediately out of the gates, and then I felt that it actually subsided throughout the rest of the debate. They kind of cooled off a little bit. But the moderators, again, biased, super biased. Fact checking, attacking Vance, throwing up lobs to Walls. And Walls was letting him hit him in the face, and he was fumbling and everything.
Well, that one question they asked Walls was about him lying about being in China during those riots, and he didn't have an answer. He was just like, I got the dates confused, I guess. I don't know. Like, they called him out on his lie there, which was good. People need to see that, like, it's not just one side that's going to tell some fibs here and there. It's like both sides are you're trying to leverage, and get to the top. So I thought that was good by the moderators, even though I do agree it was a little lopsided at times.
Yeah, yeah. They definitely went at Vance more than Walls, but that was classic. Walls said he was at Tiananmen Square whenever they had the tanks on the college students. He said he was on one of the in the pictures on one of the tanks.
That's him blocking it in the front.
Yeah, it was Walls that was in front of the tank. And yeah, they asked him about it, and they basically said, "Well, you said you were there, but you weren't there. So what was that all about?" Then he goes into this long answer of, "Well, I love being a teacher, and we were doing this program where we were bringing students to China, and and then the moderator goes, "But yeah, so you weren't there though," and he goes, "Oh, yeah, yeah, that's what I had to say about it," and so yeah, so you weren't there,
Yeah.
you weren't.
So I'm trying to think of. I wasn't thinking taking notes, but glad you did. But another thing that I thought was good on Vance's part was when they were brought up the abortion stuff, and he kind of laid it out perfectly, and he said, and this was I thought was brilliant. One of his best points of the night was when it comes to the abortion stuff and women's rights. That's obviously a big issue for women. That's a lot of women vote strictly on that, and we know how things have shaken out over the past couple of years with Donald Trump overturning Roe v. Wade, giving the power back to the states. So your state elected officials will vote in on their own Supreme Courts within the state for what women's, what they could do with that. And Vance said that the United States is such a big country that having one federal law to oversee the whole country just doesn't make sense. There's so many different people and so many different states and religions and ways that people think about it. It doesn't make sense to have an overseeing one law over the whole country and to have each state, 50 states and all the other territories pick their representatives for what their ideals are. So,
Mhm.
from someone in the deep South, Alabama, who's deeply a Christian, as opposed to somebody in, let's say, New York City, who, New York City itself is so diverse and so many different people, those laws might have to be different, and it just doesn't make sense to have one federal law. So, I thought the way he said that was brilliant.
Absolutely. And it's true because that makes sense. The whole point of a democracy is that the people get to decide how they want to be governed or what are the laws that are going to be governing their state or their nation. So for me, it makes sense because people who don't really understand what happened whenever they overturned it, they tried to say, I hear people say this, "Oh, Trump banned abortions. I can't believe it." Da, da, da." He didn't ban anything. All all Roe v. Wade, and he it wasn't even his decision either. I mean, it was the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Um, but they didn't ban it. All they did was say the federal government doesn't have the constitutional right to enforce that law. It's up to the states to decide, which means what? Well, if you live in a state, you can go vote for whether or not you have the ability to do that. And if you don't like the way that the majority of the people in your state voted, well, then you can go to a different state, right? So it's just up for the people to decide, for the people to vote on it. That's all that was, right? And so I do have a couple notes I want to go over with the beginning of the debate, right? So first thing I wrote down was Walls immediately. The first thing I noticed was I don't know what the answer is, just immediate attacks on Trump. The first question they asked him, he didn't answer the question. I didn't get the answer, and then he started attacking Trump. And then JD Vance's first response, my initial takeaway with him was very composed and well spoken. Actually answered the question. So I was like, all right, cool. Vance is already cooking up. And then the next note that I made was the moderators are biased for the Democrats, towards the Democrats, because I noticed in the first couple lines of questioning, the way that they were posing the questions, and reporters will do this too whenever they're trying to catch somebody in a sticky situation or frame a question in a way that's going to paint them in a bad light. I noticed right away the way that they were framing things to JD Vance was prefacing it with saying something bad that they did or something bad that Trump did. So explain yourself.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't pose the questions to Van or to Walls in that way. It was just like, "Oh, so by the way, da, 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 what do you think?" So, mhm.
I think that's true, and I think that what you're kind of thinking of is kind of when they were talking about war, and one of the zingers that Vance had was that they were talking. The question was about the war in the Middle East. You know, the things that we saw yesterday, with missiles being launched off all over there. And the question. I'm not exactly sure what the question was, but they asked a question
Hmm.
about like how do we move forward? How do we get peace? And like you said, Walls went after Trump. Like it was Trump's fault that all this happening. And then Vance came and he's like, well, during Trump's administration, there was no wars, but I'm pretty sure your running mate over the past 3.5 years has been the vice president, and now look at all the destruction that is going on. So that
Hmm.
was like what you were saying. Walls was trying to blame Trump for things that Trump, first of all, has no part in, and then Vance was giving him the zingers back. Like, no, Kamala's been the vice president for 3.5 years. I mean, we might as well call Kamala the president because Joe Biden, what is he really doing? Like, we don't know. Like, he hasn't been around. He doesn't come out. He doesn't talk much. Neither does she. But at the same time, it's like, well, who's actually running the country? And I think you've been seeing Kamala stepping out more and more because she's trying to win the election. She's trying to be the president. So I thought, yeah, I thought that was great that I mean, Vance has such an understanding of all that military stuff, and I think Walls does too. I'm pretty sure he was in the military for a long time, and they both have a good understanding of that. But I think the way Vance answered it was, was good. He was like, my candidate, my running mate was zero wars. There was no wars going on. We had peace, and then your running mate over the past 3.5 years, things are engulfed in flames in Ukraine and all around the Middle East. So
Hmm.
I thought it was another great answer.
And that's one of the most that's one of the best points that the Trump campaign can make is the fact that Kamala is in office right now. So the lines they keep saying that Vance keeps talking about is why isn't she implementing all these fantastic things right now or over the past 3.5 years? Why is she waiting until she can get a promotion before she decides to make any of these kinds of changes? No, typically you got to do the things right now for the job that you expect to have so that people can trust you with that promotion. They can trust you with that position.
Right.
They say dress for the job that you want, right? It's not you don't get a promotion and then produce the results. That's not how it works. So what's going on right now? Why do you deserve a promotion?
I think that's fair. And I think for Kamala's sake, I think if she was actively in the White House every day, showing that she's trying to get things worked out, if she was trying to get peace and she was trying all these different things and she was working hard, that would resonate with the American people way more than her just making TikToks or her just going on social media talking about Trump. If she was actively in the White House, actively working hard to fix the American people's problems, that would resonate. That would resonate with me. I bet, okay, she's trying. Like she's trying. She might not be the best candidate for the job, but look, she's actually like working hard to get somewhere. But
Hmm.
that's not the case. It's like you say, she's trying to lobby for a job based off her reputation in this job that it has not been good.
Right. And the thing that I'll say about the debate last night too was, and I saw a lot of comments about this under the video that I actually watched of it. I did appreciate the attempt to actually have a debate by both of the gentlemen, where it wasn't just attacking each other the entire time. Like for example, Tim Walz. I mean, obviously as an individual, I wasn't impressed by him. Right? I didn't think he was such a fantastic speaker. He had these fantastic ideas. He was articulate. All these sorts of things. He spoke fine. But what I appreciated about him was he was actually, in a lot of the cases, trying to answer the question, or at least trying to go back and forth and agree with Vance on some things, and then provide his own perspective on things. Where he struck me as much, 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 much more competent than his running mate, right, Kamala, and I could at least look at Walls as a person and say, okay, I can see that he cares to a degree. I can see that he actually cares about some of these issues. Again, was his delivery fantastic? Was he lying about stuff? Of course, right? But I actually appreciated that he was trying to answer some of the questions, right? So, and then JD Vance obviously did a fantastic job of actually answering the questions too. Like he came prepared and shooting from the hip. He was, and when they tried coming at him and tried fact checking him and tried putting him down a lot of scenarios, he came back and was like, nah, no, boom, boom. The thing about the app they're using to bring all the
Yeah.
illegal immigrants into the country, whenever he started cooking on that, they were sick.
Yeah.
Like, oh no.
Yeah, overall I thought that the debate was good for Americans as a whole. Like you said, it's good, and they said it. I think Tim Walz said it. He's like, this is a healthy debate. this is what people want. This is, you could disagree on everything, right? But if you have your leadership show that they could be competent, sit down, have a conversation about it, and not go at each other's throats, I think it's good for the country as a whole, just to show the American people that, all right, we disagree on a lot, but look at, we also agree on a lot, both sides. And people call Tim Walz the like one of the most radical liberals, and they call JD Vance very conservative. So they're technically on kind of more opposite sides of the spectrum, of the political spectrum. So it's good to see that, we still have that a little bit, because it's everything is so heightened with Trump, because it's just it feels so intense every time he's either speaking, which is, I mean, it could be, you could argue it's a good thing as a leader, or you could argue it's a bad thing as a leader, because it's so intensely hyped up. But I thought last night was good for, I would say better for Vance, but I think as Americans as a whole, it was good overall.
Right. And that goes back to the point when I think about it, I say, so why does somebody like Trump or Kamala run for president when it's seemingly the vice presidents, whenever they spoke last night, were more capable of having a conversation about what it is that we're going to do with the country? And it's the fact that it's the polarizingness of Trump and of Kamala, which is again why they probably chose her too, because they knew they could use her in terms of just a vessel to be able to promote whatever they want to promote. But the divisiveness of Trump is what makes him fantastic, because you need a character like him that's so strong, that's going to produce the radical change that we want within the institutions that we have in Washington. It's somebody like JD Vance who's going to bring the logic and perspective to the broader crowd, that's going to make them more comfortable with going that direction, right? But you do need that radical head, radical figurehead that you can look at and be like, this guy's gonna. I mean, he's at least gonna do something, because he's crazy like that.
Yeah, and in terms of foreign policy too, that's another benefit. It's it's like, these leaders around the world, like when you think of Vladimir Putin, you don't think he's such a nice guy. He's gonna do all the great things for every person in Russia. It's like, I don't think every Russian person thinks that. There's probably a lot of Russian people that think he's a bit radical too. But on the world scale, and in terms of playing the chessboard, it's like you need somebody like that who is gonna put their foot down and actually stick up for Americans on the international stage. And maybe he doesn't always do it the best way from speaking, but at least he tries to like make Americans first in his mind. And when he goes abroad, he has that polarizing figure, like you said, that people respect him. And that's what it's all about. Like, I don't think, like, if you think of American history as American presidents in the history of this country, how many of them did you think were like weak men? There's probably a slim percentage of them. I don't know. There could have been a couple guys that got in because the establishment that were weak. But when you think about figures like Abraham Lincoln, he was controversial at the time. Like, the whole south of the country didn't believe in his ideas, so they seceded from America. Eventually, they had to go to war over it. And, he prevailed in the end. But there's been controversial figures in the presidency for a long time. And that's what, like you said, strings along those ideas that normal people don't want to talk about.
Right. And you don't, and the point you're making about Putin and Trump too is the reason that there were no new wars whenever Trump was in office, I believe, is because he's not a guy that you can just punk. And so, as much as you don't like his personality or the way that he carries himself, the reason he's so successful and he's done so fantastic in real estate and building these deals and doing these deals that he does is because you can't punk him. You're not going to bitch him around. Same thing with Putin. Why do people in Russia respect Putin? The ones that do are the ones that like him, the people that like him across the world, right? People who just look at him and identify with him as a great leader. It's because you don't look at him and say, oh, I can punk that guy. So whether you like them or not, or whether you agree with their policies or whatever it is they do as a leader, forget whether or not you agree with them. You inherently as a man just respect the fact that you can't punk him, right? That's something that men understand deeply. They respect men that you can't just bitch him around,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
That's the type of leadership you need for a nation if you want to get the upper hand in deals, in foreign trade policy, in bringing things back to the U.S. Like, you want somebody that other world leaders are going to look at and say, I can't punk him, or that he's going to dominate these guys. Zelensky, you see the videos of Trump whenever he met Zelensky. Trump was a big dog in him. Oh, oh, said Zelensky, when I'm in office, you ain't getting no money, bitch. Fuck you. So, and Zelensky's like, oh, okay, okay. And people say, well, Trump has a better relationship with Putin than he did with Zelensky or whatever. Has anybody ever heard the saying, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, right? You want the leadership of our country to befriend the leader of our largest foreign, let's call it enemy that we make of Russia, right? Wouldn't you want us to be close with Putin so Putin doesn't want to nuke us or
Sure,
nuke the
100%.
yeah. Go ahead.
I don't understand why people don't get that. It's like, think of it in terms of a basketball team. Like, do you want the US to be working with all these smaller countries that we're just feeding? Like, we're just giving them money, we're giving them resources, we're giving them all this and this, or would you rather team up and create a super team with the US and China and Russia and work together through economics, through all this other stuff? It doesn't have to be laws per se. They could govern their own people how they want. But in terms of economics and growth for everyone, you want these countries to work together. You want China and the US to have a good relationship so trade is cheap between both. So both countries are making money. Russia is one of the most dominant oil countries in the world. So the United States buys a lot of oil from Russia. As much as we don't want to admit, we do. And also another thing that I learned that Americans might know, for nuclear energy, we buy uranium from Russia. So they're one of the only uranium producers in the country. So wouldn't you want to work with countries that are going to give you these materials that you could build to make your economy better? And I don't think it's war is the answer in any situation.
No, no, it's definitely not. It's not. And that's what I've noticed. A big proportion of people are starting to look and defect from the Democratic Party and start to support Trump and start to support the other side. It's not necessarily because they support Republicans. No, they support the fact of the idea that we shouldn't be at war and starting new wars and continue to fund wars. I don't know any normal Americans. I do. I know the people who are radical towards Palestinians, overthrowing Israel or that war. There are people who have opinions about that.
Yeah.
But in general, and even with that war, I mean, again, it's not my war. They're gonna fight the war that they want to fight. It's not my decision. I don't live there. But I don't understand why we have to get involved in any kind of war. I do understand why they do it, but just as an individual person in the United States, a citizen, there's no benefit to the citizens for fighting and funding wars that we don't want to be a part of, nor do we understand why that they're fighting them, nor does it benefit us in any type of way. All it is continue to produce inflation, continue to do more money printing, and then again, the U.S. people. It's not like they're voting on whether or not we go to war with these countries. The government just does it. Like they never had a vote about, oh, should we go to war in Vietnam? Should we go to war in Iraq? Should we go to war in da 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 da? There's no vote for that. They just do it. It just happens, and then we're over here like, well, what the fuck's going on then?
Yeah, one of the things that I heard back in the day that stuck with me is like the United States tries to be the world police, and they're just
Yeah.
trying to police every country to, like, just stay civil, do this, do this, do that. But I don't, I agree with you. I agree with everything you just said. I I don't know why they continue to push. Well, I know why. Like you said, I do know why, but it's like
Right.
sometimes you don't say the quiet part out loud. But it's it's divisive. It's very divisive. It's like, you think about all the people that come from the Middle East and come from Israel and come from those places to the United States. So when you pick a side in something like that, you're dividing the people in your own country that might come from those countries. Like they say, we're a country of immigrants. People come from all over the world to live in America. And then when you fund a foreign war where your citizens have come from, you're making your own country divided. And I think that's something that is fairly new, because we've had so much influx of immigration over the past 150 years. It's not just people from Europe anymore that came here. It's people from all over the world. It's people from Asia. It's people from the Middle East. People from Africa. So when you continue to fund these wars that normal people don't even know where they are on a map, you're gonna
Mhm.
create divisiveness. Just like you said with Palestine and Israel and things like that, people come from those countries here, and then the U.S. picks which. The U.S. and Israel are allies technically ever since World War II, but
Mhm.
it's like, if you didn't have to get involved, don't get involved. But I understand why they do, like you like allies and treaties and things like that. But in the long run, it's not good for just the home base.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's divisive. So what you do by funding and being a part of these wars is you inherently create more division within the people inside of your own country for no reason
Hmm.
that doesn't have to be there. So now you give something another topic for people to argue about. Now, some people would make the point, and I would agree with this, that is by design to a degree, maybe not necessarily with the war issue, but the elites, the people who run these countries, they do it for the benefit of themselves, right? And for them, it's good to keep the people, the populace divided and fighting amongst themselves because it never gives them an opportunity to unite and
Hmm.
fight against the common power. So it is by design to a degree for a lot of issues. I mean, race, I believe, is one of those things too. I don't think anybody that is a normal thinking person or a logical person really cares about race or thinks of race whenever they talk to people or the way that I don't. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just
that's the media, that's politicians trying to still drive divisiveness. It works still, but I think a lot, especially like that you see a lot of African Americans voting for Trump now. It's like because they don't see that anymore, and that's just a talking point for votes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they want to use race as a talking point when nobody, no normal citizen, general American, average person thinks like that.
Mm-mm.
But they continue to make it a thing like, oh, we have to do this. Oh, we have to do that. That's racist. That's this. Nobody actually thinks that. Nobody's actually doing that. So if you buy into that, you are buying into the media machine or to the narrative that they're trying to push that there is still racism or this is an issue too. Are there individuals that are racist? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Is that the norm? Is that the normal population? Is that all white people? Of course not.
And it's not the government. You can't say the
No.
government, the system they like to say is racist. The system is that all individuals are given liberty under God. All your
Mhm.
rights as an American citizen are given to you under God, not by the government. The government doesn't, make you go to work every day. The government doesn't make you do X, Y, and Z. It's that's you. That's your liberty of what you want to do and what you want to make out of your life. If you want
Mhm.
to smoke weed on your couch and not work every day and be a bum in South Philadelphia, you're going to be a bum in South Philadelphia. If you want to go wake up and be an entrepreneur and build businesses, you could live in a penthouse in New York City. So there's levels to it. It's all about your individual liberty and what you want to make out of your life. I don't believe in the systemic, they say systemic racism that people are given advantages. I don't see it. I don't see it in I haven't seen I know very successful all different races, Indian,
Mhm.
Asian, African Americans. I know all successful people in all those races. So it doesn't make sense to me.
Mhm. Yeah, and if you're a fucking savage, you're gonna be successful regardless.
Yeah.
There's no I never wake up and think to myself, damn, I can't do something because this person's holding me back or this institution or da. No. If you're a dog and you really actually want to live the life that you want to live, you have options. There's no excuses. You can make money, especially if you're in the United States. This is the land of opportunity. People fucking risk their lives to leave their countries, to get into our environment, to get into our economy, to be able to make a better life for themselves. So
Hmm.
you're telling me people are literally fucking drowning in the middle of the ocean trying to get to the US and there's not enough opportunity here. I can't make it because da 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 da. I sat down with somebody yesterday in something else that I do, and I was talking to this family and I was making a sale. And the guy said, he goes, oh, I just can't do this right now. I have no money. I've got no money. Just the economy's so bad right now and the inflation, da da da. And I thought to myself, damn, man, this guy really believes that the reason he doesn't have money or he doesn't make enough money right now or he can't afford to do this for his family is because the economy's bad. Listen, do I think it's great right now? No. But I've never in my own head thought to myself, fuck, dude, I can't make any money right now. The economy's bad. If you're a hustler, you're going to make money. There's always opportunities to make money. Rich people, they don't know about the economy being bad. They have assets. They invest into stocks. They invest into appreciating assets. So even when inflation's high, they're still making money. It's like, I don't, the mindset is just weak.
Hmm.
If you want to make money, you're going to make money regardless of the environment that you're in, right? I just thought it was so funny that he said that. He's like, it's just the economy's so bad right now that I just can't. I don't have any money. So yeah, it's you have no money, $0 in your bank account because the economy's bad. Yeah, for sure.
Got to get another job. Well, I wanted to talk about this topic because I saw it. It was all in the news yesterday. It was all on social media yesterday. Let me know if you saw this. Let me know if you did not see this. But over 25,000 port workers went on strike yesterday for all of the U.S. shipping ports. So basically, what it is their boss is willing to give them a 50% raise. All these employees, 25,000 employees, a 50% raise over the next 6 years. So from 6 years from now, they'll be making 50% more money. The problem is is the union wants an 80% raise. I think it was 78% raise they wanted. So there's a disconnect right now between the boss of the port authorities, the ports that, the ships come in and people take the stuff off the ships, put them on trucks and distribute to the United States. But the union wants an 80% raise over the next 6 years. So they're going on strike. So what does that mean for the US and its consumers and everything? So a number that I saw and I have here is that the US is going to lose 4.5 billion to 7.5 billion dollars in GDP a week because of this. So I don't know if you saw the map of which ports were affected, but it's basically the whole East Coast wraps around Florida and goes into the Gulf of Mexico from Louisiana to Texas, right? So $5 to $7 billion a week in GDP in products that are just going to be sitting there, not getting offloaded. So there's a couple things to this. First, one of the reasons why they're doing this is automation. So there's now robots that could do these jobs. There's robots that could take the shipping containers off of the ship, bring them down to the ground level, and then load them onto the back of a semi truck. There's literally computers that can do it, right? AI.
Right.
So that's the one thing. They're fighting for their jobs. They're fighting to keep their jobs because of automation, and then they're fighting for adequate raises. So what the CEO of the port authority, I don't know what it is, but he covers the whole East Coast, everyone that went on strike he's the union guy. And he was kind of highlighting how important their jobs are. They're like, listen, every car in a parking lot comes off of a ship somewhere. If it's an international, even American cars, Chevy, Ford, they're assembled in Mexico. They're assembled in Asia sometimes. So even American cars are coming in to the ports. So he's just trying to describe how important these people's jobs are to keep things on the shelf and all of the consumer goods that we get internationally. Americans aren't going to be able to get those because of how he's trying to stress the importance of what his people do, which is completely understandable, right? They want more wages because they feel they're valued. But where the dilemma comes in, it's like, why are we going to pay you 80% more over the next 6 years when we can invest in a technology that's going to do it for the next 100 years? So this is the first time I've seen it with my eyes is AI starting to really take important jobs away from people. We're at the crossroads now where I think other countries, I saw China, because China is one of the most exporting countries. China uses a lot of the automation stuff. Like they use the computers, they use the AI to get their ships. I'm sure they have people there as well, but it's mostly they're using these computers. So I thought this is a fascinating problem that is not going to be an easy solution for either side. My first takes is that as a businessman, we're not going to pay you 80% more when we could just invest in a technology that's going to get rid of you. So you might start to see a lot of people lose jobs.
Yeah, and that's such a great point because people got to look at a lot of these issues. I would say most of these issues, not all of them, but a lot of these issues through the lens of an entrepreneur, of a businessman, because that's exactly how most of these decisions are really being made. Let's be honest. We live in a capitalist society. The decisions that are being made are economically driven, are money driven. So, like you said, as a business person, you're going to look at that situation and say, well, what makes sense? And this is a perfect time for you, as somebody watching this, saying, why am I not learning other ways to make money? How am I going to make myself not obsolete in the next 5 to 10 years? How am I generating my own income? How am I putting myself in a situation where if I do lose my job due to automation, due to AI, I'm in a position where I'm either already rich, I'm either already making money in my own avenue, or I know how to use the AI myself and use it to my benefit. This is why you need to be in communities like the Taylor's Code and around other people that are actually making money so that you don't get phased out like these other people that don't see the change coming. And I don't blame these people for getting themselves put in a difficult situation like that. It's just the reality of the life that they live. And it's tough. And there's not much that they can do other than literally just find other ways to make money. But you, as a young person that's watching this, or you, as somebody that wants to be an entrepreneur, you got to understand this is the type of thing that needs to scare you and make you say, okay, what's the best move on the chessboard? Where do I go from here? How do I put myself in a situation where I can't become obsolete? It's it's the same thing that we were talking about that's happening with all the illegal immigration into the United States. Two reasons they would do something like this. Why would they just completely open the borders and flood all these people, illegal immigrants, into the country? Look at it like a businessman. If I can get cheaper labor than the people within my own country who want too high of wages, want too many benefits, healthcare, all these different things, all these different benefits, which I'm not saying people shouldn't have. They should have them. But what they're doing is they're flooding in basically all this cheap slave labor that they can pay under the table, pay pennies on the dollar. They're going to be happy about it. They get cheaper wages or they get cheaper employees. They profit more. They're happy. So flood the gates, bring in the illegals, and of course to help with the elections too, so they can go ahead and get a bunch of legal immigrants voting in the elections, etc. All of a sudden they don't want IDs to vote in an election, even though you need to have a vaccine passport to be able to get on an airplane. That makes sense, right? So it's just ridiculousness. But the point is, you got to look at it through an economic perspective, because once you realize that, oh, it's just cheaper labor, me and Bobby as businessmen, if you can hire somebody across the world to do the same job for pennies on the dollar than an American would, why wouldn't you do it? That's why they outsourced
Or build
production.
a machine that's going to work for free 24/7. Never take a day off. Never bitch about this. I can't come into work today. I don't feel good. Well, the AI is going to be here today, tomorrow, the day after that, 2029. It'll be there working. And something that when I was researching this, I saw was that one of these port guys who was working in a port. He was a younger guy, probably maybe our age, maybe a little older, maybe young 30s. He was saying, I saw this strike coming, so I went back to school and I learned how to build these machines as opposed to let the machine just make me obsolete. Now he works on building the machines that take the stuff off. So it's always going to be a human element of things. These robots just don't build themselves. So this guy was prepared. He's like, I could see this coming. It's going to take my job. How do I up my skill up my skill set that I could still be valuable? He's probably more valuable now than just the normal, loader who loads the ships and unloads them. He's working on these machines now. So it goes back to what we always preach. It's about your skill set is what gets you paid in the marketplace. It's not about, it's not about just like you get a good job and they're going to work you up the ranks because you're a good employee. No, it's like what skills do you provide that it's going to make you valuable to get a raise, to make X,
Mm-hmm.
Y, and Z amount of money. Like the
Mm-hmm.
skills that someone has that makes $50,000 a year, and the skills that someone that makes $500,000 a year, they're going to look different. They don't have the same skill set.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you going to do to make sure you don't go obsolete? It's a very valid question.
And people, we get this idea because in politics they talk a lot about creating jobs and getting people higher wages and this, that, and third, et cetera, which is great. That's fine. But people should have jobs. People should have opportunities to make money, et cetera. Excuse me. But I also remind myself, people get stuck into this mindset where they think they're owed a job, they're owed an income, they're owed a certain outcome. Guys, you have to remember this is still a business, a company, right? A business doesn't owe you a job. What are you doing to earn that job? What are you doing to earn that income? How about you put yourself in a situation where you're irreplaceable, where that company's begging you to stay there because they can't possibly lose you, not you thinking, well, they have to keep me or I have to have it. Nobody owes you anything, okay? When I was in Vegas, when I got my first internship as an engineer, they put me on salary after a month because they saw the way that I worked and they saw that I was valuable to their organization. what had happened was my manager at the time was going to have a child and he was actually going to go on paternity leave for a little bit. And I had done so well that they decided to put me in charge of the quality control team, right? So here's what I did. I made myself irreplaceable. I had leverage. They had to give me a salary position. And so 2 months later, I actually ended up quitting. And this is whenever I got into the insurance industry and built my first business.
I was there your
But
last day of work, remember?
you were the, oh, yes. Whenever
Like
you
your
and
last
Denora,
day or two, I was there for when you told me. He's like, "Prom was like, I'm out. This is like my last day." I think I was there. I was there the weekend before you left. So like I got in on Thursday night, and then like you quit like the following Monday or Tuesday.
yeah, I quit on Monday. That's exactly what happened. Correct. On Monday, I grabbed all my shit. I walked out. I went and go fucking built a multi-million-dollar insurance brokerage. But when I was there, right? So I quit. Okay, I quit that job. Like Bobby just said, he was in Vegas. He visited with his our other buddy. I quit the job. They called me, and guys, I didn't put in a 2 week notice. I didn't do a resignation letter. I quit like a dickhead. I made 3 grand in 2 days from selling a couple deals. On Monday, walked in, grabbed my shit, and left. They called me for the next week, offering me more money, wanted to raise my salary. What do we gotta do to bring you back? We need you. He's out of the office. That was my manager's name. Harry's not in the office. He's on paternity leave. Da, da, da. I was irreplaceable, right? I quit and they wanted me to come back. They were offering me more money. That's who you need to be. You need to be the guy they say, we can't lose this guy. That's a real thing, right? That company, I could easily have been like, they owe me a job. Why wouldn't they pay me more money? No, I went in there like a fucking savage and they knew, oh, we need this guy. They also had other companies in the gaming industry that would come and they would check the quality that we were doing on the staging for their slot machines. And the two representatives from this other company that would come in and check their staging, when they had me alone the one time, they tried to finesse me to their company.
Oh, really?
That was dirty shit, dirty dogs. So yeah, we pay a little bit more over here. You'd be really good. Da, da, da. So these people are fucking fighting over me. I'm a 22-year-old in fucking Vegas, first job, first engineering job. These people are fighting over me. It's like, who are you? Are you somebody that's impactful? Because impactful people will always have a job. They're always gonna have a career.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. It's all about the leverage. If you're just somebody who goes about their day to day trying to just get by, just trying to get to 5 o'clock and turn the computer off, you're never going to have any leverage. When you go for that promotion, when you want to go to a new company, they're going to be like, "Well, what did you do there?" They're like, "Oh, well, I did my role." Okay, but did you go above and beyond? Like, were you really trying to make the company better? That's what people look for, and that's what, like Priamo said, like if they can't, like if you're not a decision maker and you you're in the company and you have a skill set that they can't replace easily, they're going to pay you more. It's just this is how it works. They're going to if you have a skill set that they can't replace or find quickly and or at all, if you're unique, one of a kind and you do a skill that they can't find, it's you're going to get paid for what you're worth. So that's comes back to what I said and I'll say it again. It's all about your skill set and what skills you bring. That has nothing to do. Don't let the outside forces make you into thinking that you deserve a job, like you said, because you don't deserve a job. We see people all the time get fired because, the company budget is not good this year. They're losing money. They got to make cuts. Unfortunately, you might get cut.
Hmm. Yeah. And that takes us back to one other point that I always made to people whenever I was recruiting and developing my insurance company was I would hear how people were scared about commission. Oh, it's fully commission. That sounds risky. Da, 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 whatever. For me, what's riskier is putting my all of my trust into somebody else paying my income every single week and expecting them to keep me for the rest of my life, right? If you want to live or you want to work till you're 60, 65 years old and retire and live a good life, live a life like that, you have to understand your company doesn't owe you anything, nor do they care to owe you anything. I've heard so many stories and I've seen personally in my family and people around where somebody will be with a company for 20 years, loyal to them as can be done, given their entire life to this company, lay them off, cut, fired towards the end of their career because they got, too old and they got too expensive to keep. then they lost everything they had built for. They didn't get to retire with that company, et cetera. Then now they got to find a new job at their older age, et cetera. To me, that's riskier because my income is still dependent on another company either employing me or still being in business to be able to pay me. This is why you need to diversify your income as quickly as possible and be able to make money. And when you diversify your incomes, you now become less damaging. You become less easy to kill. Because if you do get one income killed, you still have something to fall back on, and it creates leverage for you. So you were saying about leverage. If you have money saved up and you are making money and you are invested and you can lose your income and afford to lose your income, you have now leverage, which is huge for negotiating and putting yourself in a position to increase or improve your life. I believe in leverage so much and being in a position where I can control the narrative or I can control my outcome because I make myself so valuable that people need me, right? If I want a contract increase, I want to, um, you know, I want to do something that maybe somebody doesn't necessarily benefit them. I have leverage because if they don't give me what I want or what I need, I can go ahead and cut the relationship, cut the ties, and they're gonna be damaged by that. So that's leverage. They're gonna want to appease me. They're gonna want to go ahead and do business with me because they know that I bring value. So you have to give yourself that kind of leverage so that you can actually negotiate in the first place.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, dude, you gotta have leverage. Um, but yeah, do you have any other points that you want to hit upon?
No, nothing else. I think we hit. That was my two topics for today were the debate and then the port strike.
Strike.
So yeah, I think it like Pramo said there. I think making sure you don't put yourself in a position that you're vulnerable, having one job that pays for your rent, your groceries, and your car. Because if you lose that job, you're going to lose all three of those, and you're going to be back at home with mommy and daddy, which isn't bad per se because you could always restart. But if you're a person that can't afford to do that, if you have a small child and you have a wife and a couple kids, and if you can't afford to do that, you have to really start thinking about diversifying. If you're someone who's young and you could afford to risk it all and lose it all, that's different. But I think you should really evaluate where you're making money because it could come and could go super quickly. So building up your skills to be able to do that is super important.
And my closing point to the people inside the Taylor's Code and those of you watching right now is everything that we're talking about is to provide context to the situation that you're in and then how you can maneuver as an individual to increase your value as a man and put yourself in a position to live the life that you want to live. So that's why it's the gentleman's code. So how should you live as a gentleman? So after talking about all these points, diversifying yourself, making yourself feel that you're important, you're valuable, you have leverage, you got to start to be discipline in the way that you live your life, in the sense that you got to have a vision, you got to have a path to get there, and you got to have things that you're doing every single day consistently to actually get you to that outcome. You have to have income. You have to put yourself in a situation where you're not relying upon one person to make money. And the sooner that you can get fully independent and self sufficient, the better. How can you do that? You learn e-commerce from Bobby. Guess what? You own your own e-commerce store. You source your own products. You make your profits. You run your ads. You're now independent. You now have an income. Even if you're just replacing the income that you have right now, wouldn't you rather make the same amount of money as you do at your normal job, but doing it something that you own, something that you're independent with, something that you can work with whenever you want, something that you can't lose because somebody else fires you? Wouldn't it be more sexy to do that? It's like I would trade. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say that, and also the creative aspect of being able to create your own thing and expand your mind into that realm of things. It's like if you work a day job where you do, you have your tasks that you do every week, every month, it gets repetitive and it gets boring and makes your brain dull. To be able to build something for yourself is creative freedom. You get to build logos, you get to build social media posts, you get to do videos like this. Like you have your own creative freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would trade that. I mean, I did trade that. That's what I'm saying is if you're making $5,000 a month with a normal income with a job, as soon as you can replace that 5,000 with something that you own and that you can create yourself, you should do that. You're gonna live a better life. I would even argue If you're making $10,000 a month and you start making $5,000 a month off of your own business, you should quit and do that business that you're doing full time. Because I would rather be making less money and still have control over my life as opposed to making more money and having no control over my outcome and what it is that I'm doing with my life. So that's the direction you got to take yourself as a man. How do I create an income? Great. Learn from us inside the Taylor's Code. Great. You have an income now. You invest into assets. You invest into the markets. You invest into properties whenever you get to that point, and you continue to diversify your incomes. You continue to develop yourself as an individual and make yourself more and more autonomous. The more autonomous you become, the better your life is going to be. Okay. But outside of that, that was a fucking fantastic episode. If you have
100%.
anything else, Bobby.
Yeah, this last point, if you made it this far in the video and you're not subscribed, hit the button. Like, what are you doing? You just listen to us talk for 45 minutes and you're not subscribed. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. But also, if you're watching this in the future, leave a comment of what you would like to see us talk about, other things, other topics of things you guys would want to see, or other video ideas, because me and Pram are trying to up the video amounts each week. So we need more ideas, more things that you guys want to hear, more things you want to see us talk about. So drop comments, and we'll take it into account and we'll analyze it, see if it's something we can make a video about or we could talk about on here. So just leave a comment. It just lets us, it lets us know what you guys want, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Me and Bobby, we come from a long line of geniuses, so we can talk about pretty much anything. So you just give us the topic, we'll give you the juice on it, and learn, take notes, actually implement these things. My life changed because I had mentorship, and that's the truest statement I could ever make. My life changed because I had real mentorship from people who are doing what I wanted to do. So take this opportunity to get that same type of mentorship and change your situation. It does work. You just got to seek it and then you got to implement it. Outside of that, drop a like, ladies and gentlemen, on the streams as well. But yeah, Bobby, well done.